Hey there. Today is all about finishing what we started with George Harrison, All Things Must Pass. So in part one, we reacted to sides 1 and 2, and today we're going to finish up with sides 3 and 4. I read what a lot of you have told me, that even though I intended to do 3 parts, that 5 and 6 were better to be left alone, so we might return to that eventually.
I'm never gonna say never.
But for right now, we're gonna end it here. If you haven't seen part 1, the link will be below. Choose to watch that whenever you want. If you want, song number 1 on side 3 is Beware of Danger. I promise you that could have kept on going for 5 minutes and I wouldn't have even noticed that it had been any longer at all, because I can just keep listening to this over and over again. It was so magical. It was so hauntingly tragic. You could feel the caution in his voice, and those chord changes were really highlighted in the piano, and I felt like that's where a lot of the heartbreak resided for me, in the sound of this song and the movement. At times it was really hard for me to find the ground and to find, where our home key was. It felt like it kind of kept switching on us. And, we had sevenths in really weird places. I mean, even just when the vocal comes in, it feels like we are warped downward and the sound is kind of pulled. And even in the song structure, right, it felt like it was kind of tagline-y, where I couldn't find a solid chorus, but we had the verse, right? We had a moment where it could have been a chorus, but it never came back, so maybe we should refer to it more as a bridge. It was more like an A-B-A sequence, or you can think of it as A-A-B-A-A, because the concept of the tagline comes back up whenever he sings the line, "Watch out for strangers." I feel like that's the indication of a new verse or of a new part of the song starting out. And we had those acoustic guitars brought back from sides 1 and 2 that were very ringing and present, and they kind of helped keep a sort of lightness about it. And then in the electric guitars, I felt like we were having a recall to a Beatles moment. The line of the electric guitars just kind of took me back there. There's just so much to that fall down, that lead into the vocal is something surreal. And I love that major lift that kind of pulls us out of that eerie sadness, but it holds on to the somberness of the sound. That melody is so beautiful. The pain that often mingles. The movement of the melody is so beautiful and unusual. It's definitely a deviation away from a more basic, simple melody that follows half steps. This is full skips. It's up and back down, toying with our emotions. And then we realized that that was just the perfect buildup for that explosive moment. And I love how the music is there to catch that line at the end, "Beware of darkness," and then all the instruments come in as support and just allow a moment of light through this
darkness journey.
know what's going on in my world right now, if I'm being followed around by the vibraphone or if I'm just working so hard to find it, whereas before I wasn't really aware of it too much. I wasn't really looking for it. It wasn't on my radar. Whatever it is, right now I'm in a vibraphone vibration, I believe. And you can hear the ring of the vibraphone actually add so much sweetness to the sound. Every time we have a suspension and a resolution, it's so satisfying, and it just is a moment that's milked so well in this song. And here we're fully living in the B section where you can feel the percussion bringing the music to life just a little bit more, giving us a little bit more of that golden element that we're missing. This left me definitely secure that I'm going to beware of darkness just a little bit more than ever before. Song number 2 is Apple Scruffs. Touch my tears, how you been on my mind, my apple scruffs. I just want to pause there and acknowledge and respect that unexpected, totally wild harmony, and then the vocal delivery. I feel like we had a really interesting, different type of yodel formed in there. This song right here is giving off folk song like no other I've heard so far on the entirety of All Things Must Pass. In the fog and in the rain, come and go. My look must surely show I was scruffs. Bravo to Apple Scruffs for emotionally picking up the scraps of our heart that so far has been shattered throughout All Things Must Pass. As this was the perfect lighthearted moment that at least I felt that I needed. Just a break, just this really fun, easy, folksy moment, but we had indulgent moments of dissonance with those harmonies, and we also had lots of playful, colorful elements throughout the musicality. There was a lot of we had diminished sevenths, we had sixths. I even noticed something interesting about the percussion, which it felt like it was kind of light and flaky and bare as opposed to a prominent drum. Like this was being very loosely guided. This song was, it felt like it was stripped back, it felt like it was bare, and it felt like it was just a moment to relax and have some fun. And it would be criminal not to mention the heavy lifting that the harmonica did in this song, because this was the time for the harmonica to showcase, to just be a star, and to just guide us on this more joyous moment of All Things Must Pass. So we have that interesting new color introduced in with that sixth right there. And then we're sent into a completely new direction, into a new galaxy with that diminished seventh right there. That's why the song just kind of takes a turn. I just realized the dissonance in the choice for those really eerie harmonies right there almost kind of mimics a harmonica sound. due to the lack of a bolder percussion, it almost feels like we're relying on the acoustic guitars a little bit to bring forth some percussion in the way that they're being strummed and how you can hear the actual chords being hit as opposed to just the vibration and the sound of the notes. And the way it just trails off as if it's gonna go on forever is wonderful. I feel like this song was the perfect Venn diagram of being really fun, lighthearted, playful, not taking itself too seriously, and then also being very, very grounded and very earthy and a little bit country and very real. It combined those two worlds and gave us a beautiful moment that I wouldn't have expected at all in All Things Must Pass. But at the same time, it stayed very on brand to All Things Must Pass because there have been a large presence of lighthearted, golden acoustic guitars, so maybe this was always meant to happen. Number 3, Ballad of Sir Frankie Crisp, parentheses, Let It Roll. There's a lot of letting it happen here, right? Let it be, let it down, let it roll. I see that we're staying on a roll of keeping a faster tempo, just a bit. There was something almost unidentifiable about this one that made it so deep and mystical, enchanting. It was beautiful. Maybe it was the presence of that organ. It brought forth a deep, profound sound that just provided so much gravity. It just drew me in. Or maybe it was that we transferred over from our last song, that moment of suspension. There was tons sprinkled out, which gave us the next moment of resolution that was so well deserved. Every time we had a major chord change, everything, the presence finally of the percussion being brought back in, you know, or a more bolder, stronger presence of a percussion. We have those deep descending pitches luring us into this world that is just sending us away on this enchanted journey. And the percussion is so amazing, not only because we have drums that are brought back, drums, but we also have that tambourine that just lightens things up a bit and makes the sound a little bit sharper percussively. Two things about that section right there because it's just so compelling to me. So we have the organ that just kind of muddies all the pitches and makes it very ethereal and celestial, very magical. It's like we're existing in this cloudy, dreamy state. And then we have that beautiful melodic line in the vocal that just carries out this sound that is enchanting. And that chord change on Worth just kind of lets us down, lets us off easy. And we have a piano riff going on that's actually quite sweet, and the sound is really gorgeous, and the way that it accompanies the guitars is really complimentary. And not only because he's singing the word roll, but that line just sounds so rock and roll to me. That sounds so hardcore. Looming echo provided after every pitch is hit from the organ kind of gives me a sense that this could be the foreshadowing of what could become emo punk rock. Think Evanescence around that. Número 4, we have A Waiting on You All. I'll admit this was a little bit harder for me to hear what was all going on because of the way that it was all mixed. I could hear the presence of horns, which is what made it feel so glorious and so celebratory and festive, but it was mixed in a way where we had the vocal again buried deep, just another layer, and everything kind of just formed together to make a new sound. And I think that quite possibly be what they were going for. They were going for this new sound, which was really genius and very well executed. Oh, and what I can prominently hear too are those maracas as a driving force, and they're part of what's really fun about this song. And that abrupt stop and that start again is also part of the fun. Everything that happens in this song is just fun. I get the sense that even when the song came out, it had a more old-timey, nostalgic sense. Even though the vocal line is mixed in as a layer, the vocal delivery is very top shelf, very forefront, very forward, a very strong, powerful vocal. I love how we have that falling sequence in the instrumentation before the music just cuts off and then parachutes us back up. It's like they know that they're taking us on a roller coaster, but they're making it a little bit easier for us by holding our hand. And they seize the perfect opportunity to end it on one of those abrupt stops that they keep on going after normally. And this time it just can end there. Perfect. Number 5 and the final song on side 3 is All Things Must Pass, the title of this album. So I'd be lying if I were to say that I wasn't a little bit nervous right now that this isn't going to live up to what it's going to be in my mind. And I'm a little nervous that it's going to break my heart the same way, even if it's beautiful. Regaining composure. Okay, there was a lot of wisdom in the lyrics. You know, they were really heavy and at the same time really simple. All things must pass, all things must pass away. Those are obvious truths, right? That, you know, and we are part of the all things. Everything passes, right? Like feelings, like things that we feel, attachments to certain things, and even lives. Everything passes, everything has its season, everything has a beginning, a life, its middle, and its end. And it just hit me really hard. But I will say this, the piano really cushions the blow for me. It's definitely a source of comfort, and it always has been. And then the horn arrangement is just so beautiful, and it adds a slight twinkle in this moment of raw, stripped, bare, natural truth. And something else I noticed too is that we have that whistle that goes throughout. Even just then we had it going up and then we had it coming back down, which is kind of an indication of what goes on in the song. As all things must pass, what goes up must come down. It's like this whole song is a law of physics. And the vocal melody is really interesting. I feel like it takes flight on the all things must pass, specifically on the pass. That is so true and so sad that sunset doesn't last all evening. I wish it did, because it's beautiful. And if that's true, then I sure hope that my stomach ache doesn't last all evening. This is just really emotionally stirring for me. I think it's the movement of the sound pairing with the lyrics. And there's such a beautiful legato, smooth, stretched out nature throughout this song. And then we have that drum and the, on the opposite end, the percussion to keep it alive and to keep it moving. But then on the end of the smoothness and the legato, it has to do with the way that the guitars are being played. And just the use of the slide guitar has been brilliant every time, all throughout this album. There's so much about this song that's chilling to me. It lived up to the expectation, so I can be happy about that. And I have to confront myself that even as amazing as it was still just as heartbreaking. Like there's almost no winning in this situation. It's a lose-lose. If it doesn't live up to the expectations, it's such a letdown. And if it does, you're in for a heartbreak. But I guess that can be therapeutic from time to time. Moving on to side 4, song number 1, I Dig Love. A much more funky, groovier moment, very playful, a lot of electric elements. We have electric pianos and electric guitars. We have this electric organ that just carries this song afloat. The lyrics are a lot of fun, and we have a similar mirroring effect in the instrumentation as we have in the actual lyrics, not just the vocal line, but the lyrics, in the sense where we have that down and up sequence that keeps on going throughout, like a riff that's like da 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 da, like whatever comes down, we're being pulled down and brought back up like we're jumping on a trampoline. But then we see a similar flip with the lyrics where the song is called I Dig Love, and those are a lot of the lyrics, but then there's a moment that just totally focuses on I love dig, and you know, just like rearranging things
Or just saying things backwards, upside down, forwards, just
the total cartwheel. And I really like the message about just being into things. Like, you are interesting if you're interested, is what I got, you know, loving love. And they're right away at the beginning, they're setting the tone for what's to come throughout. And with this specific one right here, we have the downward sequence. The first one, da 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 da, a little bit louder, and the back up is more like an echo. First, we have that organ that starts shining through, and then the instruments start revealing themselves as these hidden layers and hidden elements that are gonna spring out to life and bring this song forward. And I could be wrong, but it sounds like there's some sort of reverb on his voice. And I love the bite on the in the evening, that chord, it's very saucy. So the repetitive nature in this song is the choice in sequencing, which was just another playful element. And they do a good job at keeping it interesting throughout, even though this is quite long, especially for a song that has so much repetition in the sequencing. Song number 2 on side cuatro, I should have said that before, shouldn't I? Is Art of Dying. This was such an interesting one. I feel like it was very alternative. I feel like these last few songs have been kind of just switching it up on us and changing the game and being like either shadows of the past or foreshadow of what's to come. Like, I feel like this has a lot of shredding, it has a lot of metal elements, it has electric guitars, it has that solo, it's so powerful and heavy, and it has this overall super hardcore rock feeling. It's so cool. Like, the drums and the percussions were so hard hitting. And starting out with that level of distortion is just something in a song that you would hear today, that was written today, put on the radio today. And that horn arrangement just kind of makes this song what it is, where it's not fully in a different rock world. It's still very George Harrison. It's his own land. There's just so many notes happening in such a short frame of time. It's astounding. So rock and roll, so much rock and roll happening left and right. Maybe the dark and eerie spot where this song lives goes hand in hand with the lyrics, because I don't know if I'm taking this too literally, but it sounds like he's singing about past lives and about returning after death, and that's why there's an art to dying, and it's Maybe that's why the song is so underworld-like, because it's being sung from the underworld, explaining the whole process of life that we don't understand before we die. Super captivating and intriguing through and through. You have reached the voicemail box of The Song Before Last, Isn't It a Pity, version 2. Already I can tell that this is very familiar to the first version that we heard earlier on in the album. There's just a bit more variation going on. We have a little bit more notes being played here and there. These soaring high pitches are so beautiful, it's hard to ignore them. There we see how he's toyed with and meddled the rhythm a bit and the tempo of that line, because we're already made to be used to it, how it was sung before, and now it's kind of like warped. Not too many people see. What I'm noticing in this version compared to the first, it feels like every element is actually pulled apart a bit more, and that's actually a difference between this song and a lot of other songs, not just version 1 of Isn't It a Pity. But a lot of the other songs on All Things Must Pass have this specific mixing where sometimes it makes it really hard to differentiate the different instruments being used in the sound, but here we can hear everything as if it's all separated, all organized and put in their own compartment. And the vocal is actually very forefront, a little bit more than I'm used to in this album. This song is supposed to be one of shame and of self-reflection, and about, trying to make things better. But I can't help but feel like this is almost a moment of celebration, because I guess, when you accept something, you can change it. So maybe this is a moment of acceptance. And just the way those woodwinds worked against the organ, it brought the whole song to life in a different way than we experienced in version 1. And I won't go through this one a second time because we've already heard it in version 1, so we get the idea. But sadly, that brings us right to the final moment of this album. We have Hear Me Lord, Número 4, and final song. Already the perfect picture is painted at the hands of George Harrison with those backing vocals pleading from the depths of the soul. We could see knees hitting the ground, an overwhelming sensation, begging, pleading, and that organ, so much drama already. And the movement in the piano, it's something jazzy, it's spiritual and really compelling. It is the driving force so far. Something so gospel-like in that delivery, so percussive and so head voice, so driven, so emotional. The vocal mixing and the vocal delivery are one of the most solid on this album so far, one of the most forward, most present, most bam in our face. Overtly emotional. I'm jittering as I am speaking now because it just hit me in the bones. It shook my soul. This entire All Things Must Pass has been such a spiritual journey. I can see why so many people really have gravitated towards this album and have recommended it because it is so beautiful. I really wanted to take a moment to express how appreciative I am of each and every one of you. Thank you for continuing on this crazy journey with me. It's only gonna get crazier, I promise. So go off, have an amazing day, an amazing week, and I hope that you take it easy.